welcome back to another supporters stream. The guy next to me is mowing his lawn, but it's such a nice day outside, so I figured I'd keep the door open anyway. Hopefully we can keep our audio such that the mowing lawn won't cause any issues. And hold on, there's something goofy going on with audio everywhere too. Okay, I think we got all the audio fixed. How's everyone doing?
I'm pretty good. How about you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. It's been crazy productive. I still have 2 major websites to finish and 2 major websites to do, big Joomla 3 to 4 theme migrations and PHP 7.8 migrations. It's an interesting evening when you're like, okay, I got time for one movie. Got to get some coding done. Schindler's List. It's a long movie.
Yeah, a really short movie.
and then I get to the end of Schindler's List, and I just figure out what is wrong, because I spent like a lot of the time figuring out what is wrong with this issue. I just figured out, well, now that I know what it is, let's go ahead and actually code it. One more movie. About 3:30 in the morning. I'll wrap things up. So,
I didn't do it.
yeah, it's hey, we're good. The problem is I completely forgot that we did it was a big site, and we're turning the shopping store back on. And as we are doing that, as we're turning the store back on, hey, hold on, I think I see messages coming through, but I still can't decrypt them. I see you sent me 2 messages, but I can't decrypt them still. Right, sorry. We're having issues with Nitro chat on Matrix, I think. So anyway, we migrated the whole site since we're doing a full corporate redesign for the company, and then we're going to turn the shopping store back on because we had turned it off a while ago. And when I did the theme change, I made a full migration from Bootstrap 3 up to whatever the current is. I think it's 5. Updated all the font awesome icon. Everything's the latest and the greatest. Software versions as we're deploying this. Well, that meant I had to go back through the old archived WooCommerce themes and figure out how to get 25 theme files working with modern Bootstrap rather than the old stuff. So it was an interesting evening, and I have it mostly done. So that's good. And then we got camp figured out too. And if anybody knows where I can get a cheap analytical balance, let me know. I need one of those. I need some graduated cylinders. It occurred to me as I started putting together things to teach a chemistry class, I don't have the chemistry contacts that I used to. And so it's like I can't do fun things. Like I would love to make like flash paper. I just, a civilian, it's hard to find nitric acid. So, But anyway, I don't know. Maybe I can find it. I haven't looked. I don't want to end up in any watch lists, so that's a job for Cubes or Tails or something. So we're going to look that up. Although, I know I can get things like lye, of course. We'll do some of that. We're going to do some soap with real bacon. It's real man soap there. And we're going to do... I forget. We're going to do a lot of fun things. Going to go brush up my old chemistry notes, do some math with some kids in the woods. It'll be great. So that's in a month's time, so we're taking some time off in about a month or so as we work on things like that. But I don't know, any other fun updates going on? I haven't built a new shelf. Yeah, look at
right
that.
There. Ta-da!
What's Salbu up to?
I'm helping my brother move into his new apartment in the neighborhood.
Oh, nice.
As part of his new job, so... tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to install a new wireless access point at his place, so he's not using his landlord's access point in order to keep private that how many devices he have and so on.
Yeah, there you go. Yep, that's good fun stuff. Yeah. Anyway, let's check in on the comments, and then we will get to our topic here in a few minutes. Anchorage is on over there. Nino, Heidi, how's it going there? Traditional ad blockers will probably stop working due to anti-block protections. Those of us who can't stand ads will need to use Pi-hole. We will get into all the different ways I know of right now. Jurley says, cat in a box with a meme. Greetings from Singapore. Why, hello, Singapore. KO2610. Your number has been called. I haven't seen you here on Thursday for a while. I don't think I have anyway, but greetings. Welcome. Hope to see you tomorrow for the weekly news roundup. And we have so many news articles. We're going to have a long night after the show tonight, sorting through all the news articles I have. Stay tuned. Any supporters, of course, if you don't want to be on the camera, we understand that, but we do have a supporters hangout. Anybody who is a supporter, financial supporter on any of the supporter networks, you can log into the Jitsi server after that. If we get more like 6, though, the server might come crashing and burning, but we'll see. Errant says, let's be nice. Of course, we always want to be nice and be safe. And we got, let's see how many people we got watching. We got 30 over on Zatubies. We got 10 currently watching on Odyssey, where apparently no one's Odyssey in this. And we got 15 on Rumble. A representative from Rumble emailed me today and asked me if I want to consider getting on Rumble. I sent an email back saying, yeah, we've been on Rumble for like 5 years. Send him a link to the channel. Maybe he's on. Hi, if you are. Thanks for reaching out, though. As I said in the email, thanks for reaching out. Let's see. Good evening and welcome. Kilkick, greetings to you. It must be getting nice out. The viewer counts are going down a little bit after that Total Recall, or everyone's still on. Was that Mars? Which I still haven't gotten a chance to watch the film. We will get to it, though. We'll get to it very soon, I hope. Anyway, if the economy improves, this anti-blocking push will die down. Everyone's trying to squeeze dimes over. Yeah, it's like, why is the whole tech world trying to push ads everywhere? No one can afford anything anymore. Good night from the Netherlands. Ron Heatman, greetings, Netherlands. How are you? Samurai Warriors Unite. Microsoft Cringe Watch. There you go. All right. Let's go ahead and dive on into our topic for the night. Make a Kale is from Iowa. Greetings, Iowa. I enjoy your cornfields. And the fun movies set there, like, Children of the Corn. All right. Let's go ahead and chat about our topic here. We want to talk about ad blockers. Of course, today, or actually 2 days ago, marked the beginning of the full implementation of Manifest v3 into Google Chrome, basically starting with Chromium and then bleeding down through everything from there. But this starts the 1-year death march of Manifest v2. Now, Manifest v2 is how all of the current ad blockers are working. Effectively, the difference is that in Manifest v3, there is a lot fewer APIs and things that can function on the back end. Basically, people have to create a plugin and it can't ever change. So whereas your ad block software doesn't have to change, they just have to update the blocking scripts behind the scenes. Well, you can't do that anymore, at least not on as large of a scale as uBlock Origin specifically is one we want to talk about mostly has done. And so V3, after a lot of pushback, they did open it up to have a little bit more. I think they went from like 500 to 5,000 allowable user input. So you can whitelist up to or blacklist up to 5,000 individual sites. But effectively, a lot of the way ad blockers have worked is going to stop working. Now, there are a couple of solutions that are coming up here, but what we want to start with is looking at couple of articles. So first up from the Chromium blog. So if you're new to free and open source software, Google Chrome is a proprietary web browser that is based on the Chromium open source platform. So Chromium is a browser. You can run it, and you can run it everywhere. I think they have a Mac version. I know they have a Windows. I know they have Linux, of course. And it basically is Google Chrome without Google's proprietary blobs. Now, there are still Google connections. They just happen to be in there, and a person could take them out. Hence, we have a browser called Ungoogled Chromium, which is the Chromium browser without any connections to Google at all. And so that's what we get. Most people don't do that extreme, but they'll take the Chromium code and you build like Vivaldi's built on top of the Chromium code. Brave is built on top of the Chromium build, and just dozens of other browsers are out there based on it. And so what they say here is in Chromium, so the core of Chromium, they are starting the one-year march to phase out Manifest v2. So in June of 2025, Manifest v2 will be completely gone. They're already slowly starting to phase out some old legacy Manifest v2 plugins and extensions that have not been upgraded for a while. But as long as the developers are constantly upgrading them, they are keeping them in the system, and they still have a year from this point to migrate to another option. So that's what we're seeing in this. This is the what to expect starting June 3rd on the Chrome beta, dev, and canary channels. If users have Manifest v2 extensions, some will start seeing a warning banner when visiting their extension manager page, informing them that some Manifest v2 extensions they have installed will soon no longer be supported. At the same time, the extensions of the feature badge that are still using Manifest v2 will lose their badge. And additionally, they did say eventually they're going to turn them off, but for a short period of time, you can go in and manually toggle those things back on, but they might turn them off again, but eventually they're going to turn them off, and then that toggle button to turn it back on is going to go away. So they're starting this slow march to get rid of these old legacy plugins. Anybody have anything to add to the Chromium blog article?
Nothing quite yet, no.
Okay. Somebody anything to add?
Not really. I have to admit that when I saw the topic for today, I got intrigued, and then I saw, oh, it's Chromium, and I only use it to chat on Jitsi, so I'm a Firefox guy. So
I don't care about that crap. You're happy then at part 4 on our notes then, right? Okay, we'll get there. All right, so of course we got a lot of articles like this. This is just one of them going back a few months back, and we probably covered some of these as well. Google's Manifest v3 will soon disable uBlock Origin on Chrome. So is uBlock Origin going to disappear? The answer is yes and no. As of right now, you can go onto Chrome and you can search for uBlock Origin Lite. It is effectively uBlock Origin. It's just not as good, not as versatile, and not as customizable. It is built by the same person, Raymond Hill. And it is, if you look at it, it says specifically it is a Manifest v3 compliant. So the idea is to roll that one out so people can start testing this Manifest v3 stuff, get some user information back to the developers so they can streamline it as best as they possibly can. And they have actually officially responded. Now, this article is old. It is updated 2 years ago. This is actually uBlock.org. I do not believe this is the actual... No, okay. This is not the uBlock origin. Okay, let me clarify that. This is not uBlock Origin. He does specifically say uBlock Origin is not affiliated with uBlock.org. That is my understanding. Hopefully I have that correct. We don't want to become fake news again. All right. But anyway, this one, which is a competing extension with this effectively the same name, which is problematic in and of itself. So they actually talk about what is Manifest v3, what it means. And what I liked about this one is the fact that they talked about some technical elements. Our team has been made some changes to uBlock extension in order to comply with the new requirements. Manifest v3 uBlock is required to limit how many websites our users are able to add to their allow list. Going forward, you'll only be able to add up to 5,000 websites to your list. I think this has actually been bumped up a little bit higher even now. I said this article is 2 years old by now, and we have to keep that in account that uBlock Origin, the one everyone's more familiar with, is much more on the ball than this. They just don't have blog posts and things like that they're doing. So don't confuse this one with them. We'll get into that article in a bit. So that is effectively what we hear a little bit about it. So the question is, how does one block ads going forward? All right. So the first point is, yeah, there are going to be some extensions that are v3 compliant. uBlock Origin does have the uBlock Origin Lite. It's not as good as the main uBlock Origin. However, it is there, and it will do a reasonable job. They said the big problem with Manifest v3 on their end, it's going to require more regular extension updates. So all that auto update stuff, or every time you turn on your browser, it's like, we have updated to the latest version. Yeah, you can probably expect uBlock Origin to start updating about as much as Chrome, or excuse me, about as much as Arch or Flatpaks. I'm not sure which. I wish Dan were here because he would just chuckle at that one. Flatpak updates are on. So that's number one. Number two is you can block ads with your host file. You can go onto the various different blocking scripts. Stephen Black has a great blocking script. You can just go onto the internet and search up host file blocking scripts, and you'll get a list of different things. In fact, let's just go ahead and do it live. Hopefully we don't get anything too wonky here. Host file blocking scripts. And so what these are is inside of any system, whether that's Windows or Mac or Linux, you can go ahead and add some lines of items to your hosts file, which on Linux is etc hosts, and on Windows, I think it's system32 drivers etc hosts, I think, if I remember my directory correctly on that. But here's like Stephen Black's scripts, and here it talks about various things. There's raw host files, and then you can choose which one you want. So you have a unified host, which is adware and malware, unified host plus fake news, unified host, here's just your fake news, here's unified host plus gambling, unified host plus the P words, unified host plus social medias. So you can choose a variety of stuff that you might want to do. And so you choose whichever one you want, you click on the link, and you have this file here. So what you do is you take this file and you would copy it, and it's safe to copy and paste the whole page. And you're going to paste this into your host's file. So if I were to look at a host file on a Linux, it would just be at our etc and hosts, and then anything in this file as your computer attempts to go out onto the internet and make some changes, or call up some file or some website. If it's on this list, the request will simply fizzle. Now, the downside of this is DNS over HTTPS, a new model which unfortunately Firefox has been pushing out to the nth degree. And DNS over HTTPS, while it does have some advantages, it also carries with it legitimate FBI and CIA warnings, because if it is configured wrong, it can cause a lot of problems. It also can circumvent any parental controls. So if you happen to have a browser or like a home where you have parental controls set on your computer, if a kid is savvy enough to turn on DNS over HTTPS, he can override that. Of course, you can override that by having your child on a non-administrative account, and you can create a Firefox policy like we talk about in my hardening guide, and they can't change DNS over HTTPS. So you can fight back against this stuff. But that's the downside, is DNS over HTTPS will bypass the host's file. So that is one option that you can do. And there's tons of scripts. This is just one of them, but there are many other scripts. Anybody have anything to add on points 1 or 2 so far?
No.
No? This one should have been a standalone video, shouldn't it?
Could have been.
It could have been, yeah. I don't know. Maybe we'll save it. We'll re-record it as a standalone video later. So the third one is utilizing a custom DNS. So I've been playing around with this one called NextDNS on my Graphene OS, because for as much as I like the Graphene OS phone, the problem is it does not allow me to modify my hosts file. And that means that I can't have my internal blocking scripts on the phone itself. But what you can do, whether on your router level or on your computer level, or even on a modern Android phone starting at Android 11 and above, you can set custom DNS. So NextDNS, for your basic home user, it's going to be free. There are paid accounts for more things. You come over to nextdns.io, and you can go ahead and make a bunch of adjustments to this, And then if you want to keep it, so it says this is a temporary account. It'll expire in 7 days. And the DNS servers settings are over here. So this is the DNS over HTTPS. So if you want to configure your Firefox to already use it, you can go ahead and do this, or you can configure it inside of your operating system. So you can see Android, iOS, Windows, Mac OS, Linux, Chrome OS, browsers, and home routers. So it'll give you all of the different options. Here's a System D option. Here is a NextDNS command line, IVP6. Here's IVP4, DNS masks, or Stubby, or DNS crypt. They just have a ton of ways that you can configure this. So what you can do with this, and with this one here, if you're looking for a good parental solution or an accountability solution, this is a good one because you can go in and you can do things like security stuff. You can have it look at, Google's safe browsing, for example. You can enable it or disable it. Cryptojacking, DNS rebinding protection, typo squatting protection. You can do all those. There's privacy things. Now, the downside is there is no global social media, nor did I find a social media that blocks TikTok. TikTok has about 300 domains. Well, you can add individual sites to this. Pasting in 300 domains would take a long time. That's the big downside of NextDNS. They do not have a means to block TikTok and all the tracking that they do. They also have the parental controls. So you can restrict specific websites. You can do categories. You can even set time limits. So this DNS will be logging what's going on, and the kid reached their time limit on the computer. Boom, computer goes down now. And so you have ways of doing that. You can do force YouTube restricted mode, force safe search, block any bypass messages, like Tor-related software, like the Tor browser bundle, things like that. So you can do that. And then here's specific lists to block that are not in there. Here's specific sites to add that are blocked. And then with the analytics, you can see the devices, you can see how much is there, and you can actually turn the logging off as well. This, to me, is one of the downsides, is that, there is going to be, the company can see what's going on these individual devices. That is kind of the downside. Although, I looked into them a little bit, and they do have a good privacy policy, and they do have a decent reputation. So this is a good thing. And then if I wanted to go ahead and make some changes and keep it for a period of time, just hit the sign up, and all it needs is an email address to verify and a password. And so you might be able to set it up anonymously in that respect. So you can enable logs or disable logs. You can log client IPs or not. You can log domains or not. And then you can choose how long the records are retained. And then you can do where would you like your storage location to be. So you can see that there's a lot of options on this. So you can go over here. You can set this up on your computer. And this is going to do a good job of globally blocking everything, whether it's on your Android device. You can put this on your Android phone and have a root level ad blocker on your entire phone, which is even going to block the apps from getting around. Of course, this DNS over HTTPS, I think, will not be impacted by this. I'm not 100% sure about that. You need to check into it. I know on Graphene, the only browser I have that can get around my NextDNS is the Tor browser bundle. Everything else will respect this custom DNS setting. So there is custom DNS. Of course, you can run a Raspberry Pi with Pi-hole, and you can set up your custom DNS locally, which is a better option. I don't do that because, I'm in a van. My internet's not always on. So otherwise, I didn't do that. I just haven't had a chance to investigate. Can I self-host a good server on one of my existing servers so I don't have to spin up yet another DigitalOcean, spend another $60 a year spinning up yet one more server? I don't know. Although I would do it for video. I'm not sure if I'd want to keep it long term, but I don't know. Those are my thoughts. You guys have other ideas about blocking it with custom DNS?
What I do is, so I don't bother with the hosts file because it's too many computers to do this. Because I started experimenting very early on, about 20 years ago, about running my own local DNS domain in the .lan top-level domain, which is reserved for this. And then once I started figuring out how the DNS worked, I have added like all the Google Analytics or the Google ad servers into my DNS server that runs on my gateway. And it hijacks and says that the domain doesn't exist, the go away type of thing. And that's every type of Google Analytics subdomain is stopped by this. And a few of the big ad networks is hijacked in this way. And then I use uBlock Origin and Adblock Plus in addition to running an NoScript, which catches almost everything.
Yep. Yeah, you can set up on your router. That's actually what I do in my local network is my router, which runs pfSense. I have the NG blocker that just add my host file to that, and that covers everything on every computer on my network. I have anything to add to that?
No, not really. I don't think so.
Alrighty. And my number 4 item on my list is use Firefox. Mozilla actually is committed to keeping V2 for the foreseeable future, and they said if they do change that down the road, they are going to give people at least 12 months advance notice. And so this means that Manifest v3 is implemented in Firefox. So if there is a Manifest v3 extension, it's going to work on Firefox, but they're not also explicitly killing v2, which means somebody like Raymond Hill at uBlock Origin that wants to maintain the v2 can maintain it for Firefox. Now the question is, are we going to have enough people on Firefox to justify this? Guys, I think that Google pushing this through the Chromium, which is through all of the Chrome-based web browsers, is good enough reason for people to start looking at other alternatives. If you don't want to use Firefox itself, because I recognize that sometimes our politics can be a little wonky, if you don't want to look at that, look at like LibreWolf or Mullvad browser, both based on Firefox, much more security hardened. I will give you this warning after doing a lot of testing on the Pi 5. If you are using Firefox, particularly in the Debian branch, it's going to be worth your while to switch to the Firefox deb file instead of using the Firefox ESR. As I found on the Raspberry Pi 5, Firefox ESR is very slow, so which means on the Pi, because it's a lot lower system resources, there's something in it that's not as efficient as the main Firefox. So once I installed the regular Firefox, that thing's just as fast as any other computer I have around here. So yeah, just keep using Firefox because you can keep running those Manifest v2 extensions all you want.
It sounds like the Debian project and the main Firefox developers are compiling the Pi versions of Firefox differently, which could explain what you're experiencing.
Yeah, I'm not sure because I noticed that when I tried Armbian, it was not a super good user experience, but even the whole desktop itself was a little slow. And when I switched over to test MX Linux on the Pi is just amazingly fast. So I just kind of decided, you know what, we're just going to use MX. I installed it on the SD card, and I've been about a week on that. So I'm going to give it maybe another week or so, and then we'll do a video swapping the Pi 4 for the Pi 5 because I actually have to tear apart my my upper computer box, which has the Raspberry Pis built in and the interesting power supplies. You have to swap out a power supply because I have a special module to convert the 12-volt house batteries here into the 5-volt 5-amp because the Pi 3 uses 5-volt 3-amp. I had to get a 5-volt 5-amp for the 5. So we need to swap out the power supply, and then we'll swap out the Pi itself. And then once we accomplish that, then we'll be set to go with that. And then I have an extra Raspberry Pi floating around. Yay.
I remember the good old days when you just bought a device and you plugged it into the wall and it just worked.
Well, I mean, if I weren't living off-grid in a van, I actually have that option, you know. I mean, I rejected the Raspberry Pi kit that came with all of the stuff that I didn't need, like, you know, the AC power adapter. Don't need the AC power adapter, man. I got DC solutions here. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I think that's actually what I had on my agenda to chat about. Anybody have anything to add on that before we go into comments?
I was looking at it, and the idea that popped into my head, well, not exactly idea, but the thoughts was kind of like in the direction of like, what are the causes of this taking place?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, as far as any particulars go, some of it gets kind of name dropping, and I don't want to throw any names out there because sensitivities from certain people and getting others in trouble. So I don't want to get anybody in trouble. So but I do have some questions about about the causes of all of this. Why are we dropping 2 and going to 3? And just being like, what's in the bigger picture?
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually this stuff.
Yeah,
Right?
it has been alleged what's in the bigger picture is that with V2, you had a lot more control. With V3, especially V3 with the extra stuff Google's trying to do with cookies, it will lead to more data collection. Of course, as I was reading through the various forums, I think it was maybe a Reddit post I read today. Somebody's like, Google has the browser, Google has the ad network, and Google has the way to collect the personal data. Google is not your friend. Obviously, there's uses for it. I use Google for my business public-facing number because it's really easy to get in there and block nonsense. There's things I use Google for, but I think that our intention of using such services should always be intentional and not the default. And it has shifted into the default, and I think that that's the big problem. Right. But yeah, the V2 is going to allow for a lot more ability to block things. V3 probably will net result in more money going into the hands of the companies that are trying to make your money. The cat is engaging in biotism down here, just so you know. Hey, cat, do you feel better now? Yeah. He looks like he's walking out of a Taco Bell bathroom with a fire is going on behind him.
Oh, wow.
All right. Anyway, let's get into comments. All right. Let's see. Maybe Microsoft, instead of trying to monitor everyone's computers, they can use their fancy AI to figure out how to not make individuals poopy their pantsies in Publix. Or here's an idea. Why don't you deploy the AI to figure out how to get all the scammers out of the world rather than produce these AI tools and go, look at what we made, and not think about the fact how it's going to be exploited by the scammer instead. I forgot to mention that the anti-ad blocker killer script wasn't updated for years. Reek used to be good, so keeping ads at bay nowadays not so much. Yeah, some of them are more updated. Like Steve Black's script is always updated. Other ones are, hey, Mark jumped in. He's muted, but he jumped in nonetheless. Samurai Warriors, even Microsoft can't stop that. All right. Let's see.
There's a comment that I saw just now. This guy who asked, why is there an ESR version? And that is because stable distributions, stable releases like Debian and so on, they don't like to upgrade to a new version of a software just because there is a new version out.
Mm-hmm.
So they, if a project or a package developer team have an extended support release, they will use that because it will be supported for up to a year or 2 years.
Yeah, I'm generally in favor of that. I would prefer to have the ESR update model, but it just wasn't a viable browser to use, and I'm not using a Chromium-based browser as my main browser. So, let's see. YouTube can block all the ad blockers, but that won't stop the numerous spammers. Yeah, I know, right? They can do everything they can to block all of the ad blockers from all their users, but they can't do anything about all of this incessant spam all over their platform.
Yeah, Louis Rosman commented just this in one of his recent videos.
Yep. Just curious what browsers like Brave are going to handle this. So Brave's built-in ad blocker does not use any of the manifests because it's not an extension. It's built in. So Brave has wider latitude to do a lot more updates. So Brave might become one of the better blockers as we figure out how to run ad blockers around this. Of course, distributions like Linux Lite and Peppermint, at least Peppermint used to. I'm not sure if they still do. But they actually had options inside of the menu where you can go in and run an ad blocker. Well, effectively, all that does is just modifies the host file for you based on one of several scripts. So there's ways, but Brave will be least impacted by this move as their ad blocking feature has nothing to do with any form of manifest extensions. Or I should say extension manifest. Microsoft blocks you messing around with the host file by default now, resets it with every update. I don't do they do that? That would be interesting. I don't know. I do know that they caused a change from Windows 7 to Windows 10 where you used to use 127.0.0.1, which is the address for quote home. That used to be how you handle it, but if you noticed in that Steve Black script, everything was 0.0.0.0. That's the way they're doing it now. There was a change in Windows 7 to Windows 10 that required you to use the quad zeros instead of the original home address. Although I'm not if they're resetting it after every update, that really could get on the nerve of developers. That's my reason I don't care for NixOS, is because to make a simple change to the host file, you have to redeploy and reimage your whole system. It's like, this is nonsense for a person. I'm a developer. I often need to jump back and forth between production and non-production servers, and you do it best by modifying the host file on the fly. Yeah. So that's interesting. So do that. Let's see. Curious if there's a host file I can find, possibly put on my router that hosts ads. Yes, you can. Ivan, you can use Pi-hole. Has a specific DNS over HTTPS with all of the blockers. There's also NoScript is a competing one. Let's see. Ad nauseum, ad blocker, always add when I can. It's a fork of uBlock that has some extra features. All right. And auto clips to mess up engagement. Ooh, that's always fun. Gray noise is always good. Always good. I'm on Graphene. Thought you could change my DNS. I could be wrong. Yes, that's what I'm using. I'm using the Next DNS right now. Although I did have a problem. Where NextDNS went down for a little while. That was a serious problem. So it kind of makes me go, maybe I shouldn't have a little bit more control. Do you say Graphene cannot change the hosts file? Yes. Graphene OS does not allow you to modify the hosts file like Lineage does. Lineage allows you to do an ADB root, allowing you to access the file through a cable as a root user to modify any system files. Graphene OS does not allow you to do that. How on earth do they not have a file import feature like a CSV?
A project that I want to do, project, is I'd love to start blocking a lot of ad tracking and stuff, like from specifically to where Facebook cannot do anything whatsoever on the network and all that. But I figured before I do, step by step, the first thing I need to do, one of the very first things is, this year I want to do network segmentation. When I do the network segmentation, which is something I really should have had in place from day one, but that's a lot of money, and I paid like over $200 for this mesh kit, wireless router mesh kit. So it's like, that's coming soon. So when I do that, I'll be able to do like a Pi-hole or what have you.
Yeah. The user that shall not be named says Malvat is a honeypot.
Malvat is what now?
Evidence for that, please. He says Malvat is a honeypot. Evidence for that, please. I would like to see what your evidence for that is.
It could be, but I kind of doubt it. Of all the VPNs out there, of any, I guess at some point, if Malvat goes down, they all go down.
Well, here's another little bit of confusion, by the way. This guy says, what makes you think Malvat's a honeypot? It's the only VPN provider that lets you pay truly anonymous in Monero. So we're talking about the Malvad browser, which is separate from the Malvad VPN. So the Malvad browser is based on Firefox. It is a cooperation between the Malvad VPN company and the Tor organization. And what it has sought to do is effectively the same thing that the Tor browser bundle does, where it's a browser that makes everybody look identical online. It does carry with it the negatives. You cannot add extra extensions because that's part of them looking exactly the way that everybody else is. But it also carries with it the advantage that it's really hard to spot who's who on it if you don't change things. And but that is different from VPN itself.
There's something about using it in conjunction with Malvad VPN. It's kind of like a match made in heaven. I haven't done that yet, and I totally should pay for Malvad VPN every month.
It allows you to use any VPN. Of course, it recommends Malvad because they developed it.
Well, yeah. I mean,
it does allow you to do it.
I'm kind of a fanboy for the OpenWrt, so I actually pay for my Malvad with BTC. I started doing that. It's real nice. I love it. It's actually cheaper. It ends up being so much cheaper that way because BTC is actually sound money.
Yeah, so CCJ says that most VPNs out there just want your private info just to sign up. And that's the problem right now is we have had, and especially so many non-tech YouTube channels are promoting VPN companies, whether it's ExpressVPN or NordVPN or Malvad VPN, and they don't know what the hell they're talking about. It really frustrates me. Every single time some YouTuber comes up who doesn't know anything about that technology, you got to use ExpressVPN. It's going to protect all your stuff on the internet. No, it doesn't. Okay, once you sign in, you're completely de-anonymized. And the problem we have is that what has happened is the idea of a VPN has reached the cultural zeitgeist where everybody thinks a VPN is a good thing to do. And so what ends up happening is that a company, companies just start pushing out all these VPNs. And the big challenge with a VPN, you have to have extraordinarily trust in your VPN. You have to have more trust in your VPN than you have in your operating system or your ISP because they have a record potentially of everything you do on your device. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And so the idea you just throw it at any VPN company is utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, it's better to set it. A VPN is meant for business use. That's its original purpose. Not saying it can't be like a good geo-blocker and stuff like that. Or if you're somebody like me, you're better to set up your own DigitalOcean server. Like Tom has mentioned time and time again, try to find some of his older content on that. Set up your own DigitalOcean server and run something like WireGuard. Even OpenVPN is okay, but I don't know why you would, because WireGuard is just
all right. So here's the evidence this gentleman says about Tor or Malvad being a honeypot, which I think he's confusing more of the Malvad browser and the Malvad VPN company. He says lots of VPNs accept XMR. Tor is given lots of. It's a disjointed sentence. I'm going to read it because I did say what's the evidence. Lots of VPNs accept XMR. Tor is give lots of money from the U.S. government. Yes. While it is true, the government does fund a lot of interesting stuff. The government also funds hundreds of thousands of dollars or tax dollars to figure out if Thanos can snap his gloves. Okay? But we also know that the way the model with Tor works and the way the model with a lot of these systems works, it makes it extremely hard to figure out who's who. To get compromised using Tor without making some really stupid mistake that they warn you against is extraordinarily difficult to do, even for the government, because the Tor nodes jump through so many different jurisdictions and you must control not only the entry node and the exit node simultaneously. You also have to be able to see a record of every user that is on it simultaneously, which is difficult because the model makes sure that everybody looks exactly the same. So yes, this government does give money, but that does not mean that it's a honeypot that just feeds money back to the company. The government does funds Tor to make it usable so the government can use it for nefarious purposes so it cannot be caught. Because I'm not sure if you've noticed or not, but our government and every other government in the face of the planet is not particularly glowing with integrity.
And then there is the problem of you have to pick who you want to trust. And it's not much that you can do in order to verify that they are doing what they say they are doing. except for the few cases. I think it's a couple of cases, 2 cases, where the authorities or the police or what have you have gone to one or two VPN companies in order and asked for access to the logs from so-and-so user, only to be told that they don't log anything. That is the companies that you should, if you are serious about privacy and security, those are the VPNs you need to use.
Yeah, I know Malvad VPN has a lot of, they have a lot of trust in the privacy and security world. There's been another one that has been tested in court 2 times, and both times it said, yeah, we don't have any data. I forget which company that one was. Steve's Very Own is on. Greetings, Steve's Very Own. Are you still doing your Sunday morning show? If so, check out Steve's Very Own on Sunday mornings.
PIA is one that is still trusted by a lot of people, and I think we concluded that. Didn't they break away from the Surfshark joining or whatever?
Which company?
PIA, Private Internet Access.
Oh, yeah. Private Internet Access, I think, was the one that had been tested a couple times. The big problem I have with a lot of these VPN companies is they tend to all be owned by the same companies.
Yeah.
And that carries with it a couple of problems, because as they start to consolidate, it's like big media companies. That's why you have these conglomerates where you see somebody puts together the thing of 50 different news reporters saying the exact same thing the exact same way, because all of those are under the same subsidiary. Well, if we only have 2 real VPN companies and every other VPN is a subsidiary of that, we're starting to put too much trust in too few companies, and that's issues.
Yeah, it's because the media companies are all owned by a couple, 1 or 2, 3 different corporations. One of them was I can't remember the one that I used to know, but I don't anymore. It's also the fact that there is clearly an agenda that is by design being put out to the general public to kind of keep people in line, and I'll just say that.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. We got 11 on Rumble. We got 19 on Odyssey. Let's check in on Odyssey comments. We've been stuck on the YouTube for so long. We say manifest is a user input without any input from the user is a lie. Basically, it's a lie. Of course, it's a lie. Come on. Errant, we are trying to keep things user friendly. Thank you. Oh yeah, there you go. Ask him wash his mouth out with soap. There you go. All right. OpenWrt has Adblock too. Yeah, if you can find a router that supports OpenWrt, that's an open source system that works on commercial routers. So if you have an old router in your closet, it might run OpenWrt. Of course, I have my spare router down here if in case my pfSense falls apart or something. It is so old. OpenWrt has one, but it says don't use it. This router is extremely old and really vulnerable. So if I ever have to use that, it's a nuclear scenario, and I need to go get a new router.
Yeah, but then again, if there is a nuclear scenario, you might not care about getting a new router.
Yeah, correct. But I mean, we're talking about like a nuclear scenario. My pfSense catches on fire, you know.
Well, if there's a nuclear disaster, then we're all dead. So we're in heaven.
Can't trust the soap these days. So you got to come to my science camp, man. We're going to make soap. I'm going to teach kids how to make soap with bacon.
You know, if we were truly at threat, I think they do that to fearmonger and try to get everybody in line. If we were truly under threat of a nuclear attack at this point, it would have already happened. It have happened years ago.
Yeah,
if Russia had the, I know they got the cojones. I believe he would do it if he felt like he needed to, Putin. But if they were really, do they even have the resources to really do that? Russia, really?
Yes.
Yeah,
behind United States, Russia is the most resource-rich nation on earth.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they're also not the evil boogeyman either. I mean, they're
No, they're not.
different.
I'm
They're
not
like us.
saying
They're different. They're just, every
they're
culture's
just
different. Every
culture.
culture's its own way. We need to respect the various differences of the different
I'll be honest
groups,
with you.
but
There's
it's
things about Russian how they handle things that I actually admire.
Yeah, well,
You can protest peacefully, but if you're like attacking people and being violent, they're gonna haul your ass off.
Are you swearing on my stream again? You're gonna wash your mouth.
I'm sorry. Yeah. They're gonna haul you off.
Well, it's no different than here in America. We haul off grandmas for praying in the Capitol. So, but anyway, enough of that. If you just jumped on, we kind of finished our topic a little bit earlier. We've just been going through the comments, of course. Talk about, will Adblockers stop working? Effectively, no, but we are going to see some decline in efficiency as Manifest v3 takes over. Manifest v2 is depreciated over the course of the next year. And we talked about a couple of options: modifying your host file, custom DNS with nextdns.io, and things like Pi-hole, or Firefox, which is not depreciating Manifest v2 at all. As long as people keep on developing extensions for it, they will. Of course, this means that we do need to get that Firefox user base up enough to make sure that people have an incentive to develop extensions for it. So with that, I think we're going to wrap this show up here. Of course, if you're a supporter, you want to jump on for the after show hangout, you can jump on here as soon as we are offline. We'll be hanging out for probably about an hour, at least an hour, as we sort through this massive pile of news for our weekly news roundup tomorrow. We'll be out. But with that, guys, thank you for watching. And, you know what? One more thing. I did forget to mention. One more thing. We did get the short story up for any supporters. My apologies for being so late. I could not figure out where that story was going. And so I had to do a couple of rewrites in there a couple times. Hopefully it's a good story. If you guys read it, let me know. Stay attuned. I'm going to give it about a month because I have just a boatload of crazy stuff I need to do over the course of this month. Right after that, I'm going to start seeking your thoughts about what order, because we're going to take all of those stories. We have 10 stories from over the course of the last 10 months. We've released one short story based on modern elements in politics and where these things could go when taking their logical extension. We're going to be compiling that into a book. And I want to know what order should that book be? What is a good title for this book? We're going to be doing stuff like that. We'll start looking at that in roughly a month to 6 weeks' time after things wind down on the crazy schedule coming up. But absolutely, the short story has been posted. Audiobook is valid, I think, until the end of June. So you have until the end of June. If you're not already a supporter, you can jump on, go back and find the audiobook. Of course, you can read all the old stories. The audiobooks are only valid for 1 month, however.
I'll definitely get the new ones downloaded.
Yep. So with that, guys, thank you for watching. We'll be back tomorrow, roughly this time tomorrow, on the weekly news roundup. We'll catch you guys later.
I'm